I now go on to the 10-minute rule motion, and I call Jessie Norman.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to require the Secretary of State to publish and implement a plan for cleaning and improving the water quality of the River Wye and for connected purposes. Madam Deputy Speaker, as Shadow Leader of the House, I am rarely allowed to speak on behalf of my constituents from the back benches, so I'm sure you will understand that this 10-minute rule motion is a priceless opportunity for me to highlight a vital issue of both local and national significance, the plight of the River Wye. The Wye is one of the most beautiful and ecologically significant rivers in the UK. Rising from the slopes of Plynlimmon in mid-Wales, it winds its way through via Hay-on-Wye and Hereford and on to Ross-on-Wye before heading down to Simon's-Yat, Monmouth, Tintern and the Severn Estuary. The Wye Valley too is renowned for its beauty. It is a special area of conservation with 2 sites of special scientific interest. The river is thus a vital part not only of the local economy in Herefordshire, but of our landscape, our culture and our heritage as a nation. Admired since Roman times, it is one of the birthplaces of British tourism, the origin of the movement known as the picturesque, and the inspiration for some of the finest poetry in the English language. Yet in recent years, the river has faced huge environmental pressures, particularly from high phosphate levels, which have harmed water quality and aquatic life. The rapid growth in certain farming sectors, including poultry, has brought economic benefits, but also placed additional strain on the river, as well as agricultural runoff, sewage and wastewater discharges, and changes in land management have also contributed to the problem. And these pressures have been compounded by rises in water temperature and changes to seasonal water flow. Many of these specific problems and their interactions are still not fully understood, and so there is a real need for proper research as well. Building on the work of Councillor Alyssa Swinglehurst and the Wye and Usk Foundation, among many others, I first highlighted this issue in September 2020. From the start, I pressed the agencies, that is the Environment Agency, Natural England and Natural Resources Wales, for a collective response, and then called on them for a cross-border, all-catchment, long-term action plan. In June 2021, working with other catchment MPs of the time, I invited the national agencies and the local councils on both sides of the border to a special meeting devoted to this issue. In October 2021, I coordinated a letter from Wye catchment MPs to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, calling for a specific spending package devoted to the Wye in the 2021 3-year spending review. The result, lockdowns and other pandemic delays notwithstanding, was the Hereford Shell Store meeting of July 22 and the set-up of the Wye Phosphates Working Group, whose terms of reference were then adopted very much with my support by a Phosphates Commission established by the 4 local authorities. All these things helped to bring people and groups together. But in the course of it, I'm pleased to say, we also had one major win of substance. I had called for the proceeds of fines on water companies to be ring-fenced and devoted to a new National Rivers Recovery Fund. In November 2022, the government accepted this ring-fencing. In relation to the Wye, it's important to be aware that much good work has been done on the ground. The Cross-Border Nutrient Management Board has carefully assessed and assembled a range of potentially useful measures. Thanks to detailed assessment work with Welsh Water, it now looks as though local sewage and wastewater discharges will be brought within national standards, though only by the early 2030s, which is still far too slow. And the community response on both sides of the border has been magnificent, with hundreds of volunteer citizen scientists actively taking weekly water readings under the aegis of the Friends of the Wye and other organisations. But at the national level, I'm sorry to say that progress in addressing these issues has been painfully slow. For years, the creation of a high-level, catchment-wide plan essential to manage this cross-border issue was impeded by political differences between the Welsh and UK governments. Meanwhile, the regulatory agencies struggled to enforce existing environmental protections effectively. Finally, after 3 ministerial visits, including one from the Secretary of State for DEFRA to Hereford in June 2023, we managed to secure publication of the River Wye Action Plan last year. This at least covered the English part of the river, and £35 million was reallocated from within existing DEFRA budgets to fund mitigations and the development of an integrated long-term recovery strategy. The then government also announced that it had appointed a new river champion, whose job it was to lead the detailed planning work in collaboration with key stakeholders on both sides of the border. The plan for the Wye was by no means perfect, but for the first time it provided a framework and money badly needed to support projects and research, and a named person to help drive things forward on the ground. It was therefore deeply disappointing when the plan was dropped by the new government after the general election, alongside the idea of the river champion. And it is still more disappointing that the Treasury is also now rowing back on the previous government's commitment to ring-fence money from fines on water companies and use them for a river restoration fund. That is a massive step backwards. Water companies have paid many tens of millions of pounds in fines since 2022 alone. This money should go back into saving our rivers. So what is to be done, Madam Deputy Speaker? Protecting and restoring the Wye requires a long-term collaborative approach, as I have highlighted. The UK and Welsh governments, the agencies, farmers, businesses, local authorities, environmental groups and local people all have a role to play in developing a strategy that balances economic sustainability with environmental responsibility. So while I am very glad that my colleague, the MP for North Herefordshire, is co-sponsoring this bill, it is a great pity that other Wye catchment MPs have chosen not to, and indeed I do not notice a single Wye catchment MP in this House. A great sadness. This bill is clear and simple in its intent. It would for the first time require the Secretary of State for DEFRA, by law, to publish and implement a plan for cleaning and improving the water quality of the River Wye. I think that is a measure which every MP of every constituency, inside or outside the Wye catchment, should be enthusiastic to support. Solutions must include better land management, improved water treatment, effective incentives for sustainable farming, and stronger oversight and enforcement. The Wye Catchment 2025 management plan is designed to cover not just water quality, but biodiversity loss and flood and drought vulnerability. And the Nutrient Management Board provides an important framework of public accountability in relation to measures affecting nutrients and water quality. In other words, many of the key clean-up measures and mitigations are well understood. What we need now is action. We need an end to delay. We need political leadership from ministers on both sides of the border, a shared determination to address this vital national issue with the seriousness it deserves, and the funding, the £35 million cut from the plan for the Wye, to make it happen. Madam Deputy Speaker, the River Wye is a true national treasure. It requires not just short-term measures, but a sustained collective effort led by the UK and Welsh governments to ensure that this magnificent river is fully restored to health as swiftly as that can be achieved.
The question is that the Right Honourable Member have leave to bring in the bill. As many of that opinion say aye, many of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. The ayes have it, the ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Ellie Chowns and myself, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Jessie Norman.
River Wye Cleaning Bill.
Second reading what day?
4th of July.
4th of July.